when we came into the season, Maryland and Ohio State expected to be undefeated at this point, but you felt like this game maybe wasn't going to be as close as it possibly could. Now, that being said, I think this is a very interesting matchup for a few different reasons. You look at what Maryland can do versus what Ohio State can do, and you look at what they've done so far and the confidence they're playing with, that could play a huge role. We're going to break down both teams. We'll take a look at the matchups you need to watch that will determine the outcome and figure out what team each team needs to do to find a way to win this game. Maryland is interesting because Taulia Tagovailoa has been around seemingly forever, and we're still waiting for a marquee win. And I think that playing in the Big Ten East doesn't make for an easy life, but you have talent on this roster that you can utilize, and you have plenty of options if you're Tagovailoa. And Maryland has this reputation that once things start getting tough, things go wrong for them. But this is an opportunity to showcase that that is not the case. Now, I will say, when you look at who they played so far, it hasn't been the toughest competition. The win over Michigan State, though, said something to me. I don't want to say it's the biggest difference, but winning 31-9 is different than what we've seen in the past. This is a team that you, in the past, even with Michigan State last year, it felt like Maryland wasn't on the same level as Michigan State at times. And you're still finding ways to beat that competition and change your perception. And one thing you can do is playing well offensively. And in the past, Tagovailoa and this offense have kind of disappeared in big games. This is an opportunity to show that you are ready for the spotlight. You are ready for that. And we'll talk about that more in a little bit, but Tagovailoa plays a big role in that. On the defense side of the ball, when you're facing Ohio State, you know you have to face those wide receivers. Marvin Harrison Jr., Julian Fleming, Emeka Ibuka, tight end Cade Stover. You have so many weapons to slow down. And a guy like Tariq Still will have his hands full. You do not get any reps off. You do not get any plays off when you face Ohio State. So finding ways to get the ball back to your offense, whether that's turnovers or stops, you have to find a way to give your team more chances to score. Because right now, I think that Maryland is doing a great job defensively of slowing teams down. I think you're also seeing an offense that is playing at a pretty high level. I think that there's some things that they could do better, but at the same time, you're looking at an offense with Tagovailoa running the show, and he's playing really well. He's playing with a ton of confidence. He's moving the ball down the field efficiently, and when it comes down to it, you need that to happen in a big game. Whether or not he can do that against a team like Ohio State, I think mostly remains to be seen. But you're still looking at a team that is playing with confidence, and that's really all you can ask for when you're coming into a game of this magnitude. For Ohio State, there are still plenty of questions for them to answer. There are still plenty of things for them to figure out. And one thing is finding a way to keep Marvin Harrison Jr. healthy. I think that he has taken some shots lately, and he's gone off the field because he's been hurt. But I think that you look at the depth of this offense, and that's why you brought certain guys back. You bring certain players back to the table. Guys like Emeka Ibuka have stepped up, but finding ways to keep Marvin Harrison Jr. healthy will be a huge play for this team. And this offense has looked, honestly, if we're being honest, I think they've looked underwhelming so far. The Western Kentucky win was pretty impressive, putting up 63 points. But with the amount of talent you have, take away the quarterback. Can't really do that because obviously it's a big role, but just look at the other skill positions. When you have Marvin Harrison Jr., Emeka Egbuka, Julian Fleming, Cade Stover, and then at running back, you have Trevion Henderson, you have Chip Trainum, and you have Mine Williams. You look at that on paper and you look at what they've done so far and you think, what is wrong? Something is wrong with this offense. Yes, they've scored enough points to do what they need to do, but overall, it has not been that impressive. So this is a big game for them to make a statement. And guys like Kyle McCord at the quarterback position have to find ways to get these skill position players more involved and to create big plays. On the defense side of the ball, I think I've been very impressed with Ohio State's ability to shut teams down for the most part. Most points they gave up was 14 to Notre Dame. I think we all expected that in Jim Knowles' second year, but so far it has looked really good. And I think that's a big reason why we're not as concerned about the offensive struggles yet, is because the defense is mostly doing its part. Tyreek Williams is having a good year. There's plenty of weapons you can talk about on the defensive side of the ball. But right now, I think the defense is doing its part and kind of just waiting for the offense to finally step up and give them what they need. Whenever you're facing a team like Ohio State, there are so many matchups you need to watch. And when you get the scouting report, when you get a normal scouting report, it feels like there's 1 to 3 players that you have highlighted of this is the dude, don't let him do this. This player, don't let him do that. With Ohio State, it feels like you just highlight the entire roster. Now, there are certain areas that you find some concerns, but with the skill positions, you're essentially just highlighting everybody. Good luck containing that. But like I said before, this is an Ohio State team that feels like they're underachieving a little bit, but the matchups to watch will determine a lot for this game and determine how successful Ohio State can be. We already talked about Talib Still against Marvin Harrison Jr. Going to have his hands full. Harrison Jr. is a first round pick, and you're going to have to prove your worth. But it's also an opportunity to showcase your skill set and get your draft stuck up. When you look at the offensive line for Maryland, keeping Tagovailoa upright plays a huge role. Delmar Glaze gets to face some of the best talent in the country. And Jack Sawyer is having a good year. I think he's looked really good. And he gets an opportunity to showcase what he can do against another player who could play in the NFL in the future. The quarterbacks play a huge role, and we'll talk about them more in depth in a little bit, but they are a matchup to watch because what Tagovailoa can do against a good team versus what McCord can do to help elevate this offense plays a huge role in determining the outcome. Then you look at the talent that they have. There are some mismatches for Maryland as well. Now you're going to have to find a way to contain Trevion Henderson. Ruben Hypolite has his hands full, but there's a mismatch in Corey Dice that could be a huge opportunity for them. Steele Chambers and Tommy Eichenberg, I think, have their hands full covering him. I think that the passing attack for Maryland in some ways appears to be better than it was last year, and that's with 3 guys that you expected to be really good in RJ Barrett and RK Barrett. You look at Raheem Barrett, man, and then you have Dante Demas, you have Jacob Copeland. Those 3 guys you expected bigger things from, and now that they're gone, it almost feels like there's less pressure to rely on 3 guys. You just have whoever is going to be open, and it feels like this offense looks a little bit more free, which is interesting when Josh Gaddis is running that. More on that probably in another video. For the keys to the game, Maryland has to find a way to slow down the passing attack. Now, that also means you have to stop this explosive rushing attack. So kind of pick your poison. But I think if you're going to have a death by anything, it's going to be death by the rushing attack for Ohio State because you are not going to let Marvin Harrison Jr. and Ibuka and Fleming kill you over the top. Limiting those explosive plays will be key because this is an Ohio State team that will get theirs. They will find ways to score and make things interesting and take a lead or finding ways to put pressure on Maryland. You just have to limit the explosive plays that can do a lot of damage to your confidence. So if you're able to do that, I feel really good about what Maryland can do to make things interesting. Also play to the occasion. Under Mike Locksley, they beat the bad competition, and then as soon as teams started getting good, they almost disappear. They become a very different team. You have to find a way to embrace the spotlight, embrace the challenge, and find ways to step up your game. For Ohio State, you have to lean on the depth of your talent. You know what the spotlight is. You've lived in the spotlight. You've lived for moments like this. You have the advantage because that is the expectation when you play for the Ohio State Buckeyes is that you are playing on the biggest stage for the biggest games, for the biggest trophies. And this is a step to get there. This is an interdivision matchup that gives you an opportunity to make a statement. Now, taking care of the football will be a big key too. If you're giving Maryland opportunities to put more points on the board, you're asking for an upset. So you have to find ways to take care of the football. You also have to find ways to create pressure on Tagovailoa. Tagovailoa is a decent quarterback, but if you create some issues for him, then you're going to see things turn in your favor. So there's definitely plenty to keep an eye on with that. If you're able to do that, you're able to get the ball back to your offense. You're going to limit what Maryland can do offensively, and that will help you tremendously. The quarterbacks, like I said, play a huge role. If Taulia can prove that he is an improved quarterback and he is ready for the challenge, ready for the spotlight, then Maryland's in good hands. Similarly, Kyle McCord also has to prove he's ready for the spotlight too. Maryland isn't the biggest test that Ohio State will face, but they are playing with a lot of confidence, and they are right now playing as about as good football as we've seen while Tagovailoa has been at Maryland. So you have a lot of pressure on Ohio State to win. You have a lot of pressure on Kyle McCord to get this offense going. And maybe that pressure is too much, and maybe Tagovailoa is able to do that. But in the end, it feels like Ohio State has too much talent for this team to get upset. You have too much talent on both sides of the ball. You also have to realize that Ohio State's defense is playing with a ton of confidence. They are playing at a high level, and I think that is the advantage that we're not talking about enough. Maryland's offense is good, but I don't know if they have enough talent to keep Tagovailoa comfortable, and I don't know if Tagovailoa has what it takes to make enough big plays to pull off the upset. So Ohio State to me wins this game, but it's definitely going to be interesting if Maryland has some tricks up their sleeve.